It's the night after Super Tuesday, which means most all the results are in from the biggest night in the 2024 election. Former President Donald Trump officially sealing the Republican presidential nomination, leaving challenger Nikki Haley to suspend her campaign early this morning. After becoming the party's pick, Trump also picked up an endorsement from Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, who previously called Trump responsible for the Capitol riots on January 6th.
On February the 25th, 2021, shortly after the attack on the Capitol, I was asked a similar question, and I said I would support the nominee for president even if it were the former president.
President Joe Biden also picked up an endorsement from his former challenger, Dean Phillips, who also suspended his campaign following last night's results. Last night started out as a nail-biter here in West Texas, but eventually fell in the favor of our sitting representatives. Incumbent Drew Darby retained his seat as House District 72 representative over challenger Stormy Bradley. Darby took home the race by more than 3,000 votes. Bradley had the backing of not only Governor Abbott, but also former President Donald Trump. While the two candidates may have many similarities throughout her campaign, Bradley was marketed as the school choice candidate, setting her apart from Darby. In a statement released this morning, Bradley thanked her supporters and said in part, quote, "While we fell short of our goal, we were successful in elevating the profile of critical issues like shutting down our border and passing school choice. This campaign was always about electing a leader that represents true conservative values, and I am hopeful we have played a role in that moving forward," end quote. Joining me now in studio is Damian Bartonic, who was at Representative Darby's watch party last night as the votes were coming in. Damian, can you tell us a little bit more about what that was like?
Absolutely, Bert. I got you. Now, last night, everyone at the watch party told me how confident they were and also expressed how tiring the process had become. But in light of all of that, Darby came out victorious, and I actually have an exclusive interview with the representative moments after his victory was sealed.
I may start crying.
It was a long Tuesday night at the Darby headquarters in San Angelo, but when the dust settled, Drew Darby beat his opponent Stormy Bradley to retain his seat as House District 72's state representative.
Tell me what it took to run a successful campaign like this.
But a lot of hard work from a lot of people. We could not have done this without the hard work of staff, volunteers, people from everyday walks of life here in House District 72 that bought into our campaign, that agree with us on some of the priority issues. And so this was a district-wide effort by a lot of people.
In Darby's eyes, a win for him is a win for education in his district.
I think our communities win, our schools win. A lot of the folks in the education community came together to help support me because they know I'm a fighter for them.
Darby told me this campaign was long, and what drew it out in part was having some of the most prominent figures in his party support his opponent.
Well, I don't know if there's a chip, but certainly there was a burden on my shoulders to know that we not only had to overcome the efforts of my opponent, we had to overcome the efforts of a lot of people who are trying to scuttle my term as a state representative.
Now, Darby will serve through 2027, which will make more than 20 years representing his district. So what's next?
Well, I intend to, we still have one more year in this term, and then we'll begin a new term in January of 2025. We're going to be preparing for that. We're going to be making sure that we're focused on the issues, that we prepare ourselves. Before each session, we prepare ourselves. We start talking to folks in the district, and we start looking at what needs to be done.
With Darby's work continuing Wednesday, he collects his campaign signs and begins the day like any other by opening his Bible for his early morning study and putting on his suit to represent West Texas.
The situation was seen last night in Taylor County for House District 71.
That's right, Damian. Abbott-backed challenger Liz Case took on incumbent Stan Lambert, who ultimately came out on top.
But this race was a bit closer than Darby's. Lambert only prevailed with 52% of the vote. That's just a little over 1,000 more votes than Case, who was the school choice candidate in this election.
Now, school choice played a big part in last night's primaries, so much so that Governor Abbott released a statement after the election to commend his candidates and voters. He said in part, quote, "Texans are one step closer to empowering every Texas family. Republican primary voters have once again sent an unmistakable message that parents deserve the freedom to choose the best education pathway for their child," end quote.
And judging by the results for Proposition 11, it would seem that most Texas voters agree. It was 80-20 in the polls from last night, and that's more than 1 million voters who said they would support funding a parent's decision to send their child to the school of their choice.
This comes after a handful of Republican lawmakers blocked Governor Abbott's voucher plan in a special session last year. Janelle Ford has reaction on both sides of the issue from Dallas.
Well, there still may not be enough votes for school voucher legislation to pass yet, but still the results from Super Tuesday did give the push a huge momentum boost, just as Governor Greg Abbott had hoped for. Many are calling it the governor's revenge tour. He poured millions into campaigns targeting several of the 21 Republicans who voted against vouchers last year. Since then, we've seen 5 of the incumbents retire, 6 others lost their jobs in last night's races, and 4 more are headed to runoffs, all per the Texas Tribune. Now, again, that doesn't fill all 21 seats, but it does create a landscape ripe for a renewed push for school choice with less opposition. The proposed voucher program would allow families to use thousands of public dollars for private school tuition. Those 4 school vouchers say yesterday's results signaled Texans want a voucher program and believe they're closer to making it a reality, while those who oppose them say it's not that clear cut.
The voters of Texas are smart enough to know that we can do both. We can invest in and strengthen public education and also support school choice, parental choice, and that's what the voters resoundingly told us last night.
You have these out-of-state billionaires who, for their own very narrow and extreme political interests, poured tens of millions of dollars into these races. So you have an artificially inflated result. I'm not sure that in the general election, some of these pro-voucher candidates are vulnerable, and they will be replaced by anti-voucher candidates.
Now, we won't know the full picture until after the general election in November, but the runoffs could provide some early intel. And then the real test will be when we hit the next legislative session, when school vouchers will once again be up for a vote. In Dallas, I'm Janelle Fort.
Abbott's tactics, however, didn't sway Darby voters, like one tenured West Texas teacher I spoke to last night who said he was the candidate for educators.
Made teachers a priority, and we know it. As far as the voucher system is concerned, we knew that that was the caveat that Governor Abbott had put into House Bill 1, which absolutely needed to be defeated because it was pro-voucher.
We'll have much more on the results of Super Tuesday later on, but in the meantime, you can head over to our website for the latest numbers. That's foxwtx.com.